Hi, here are the games I played in December. In an effort to be in more Iron Pineapple videos this year than Rasputin videos, I kicked things off with Path of Exile 2 for a sponsored video on Pine's channel. Like previous stuff I've done with Pine while I was in the video, I personally have not been sponsored. I haven't been paid to play or talk about it and have no obligations to Grinding Gear Games or anyone else. That doesn't mean you have to trust my opinion on it, but I just want to be as transparent as possible so you can best decide how to feel about whatever I say. Anyway, I imagine by now, if you've had any interest in Path of Exile 2, you've probably already played it as it has been popping off, and I can definitely see why. Its various systems have tons of customizability, allowing for interesting builds. Everything in the game from locations to characters to particle effects are beautifully rendered, and there is a constant stream of rewards for everything you do, always keeping that dopamine pumping. With that said, I think in its current state, or at least the state we played it in, it is a bit of a mess. And it is an early access title, so I think that's to be expected. The whole point is that they are seeing what works and what doesn't, and then shifting systems accordingly. But this obviously leads to a messier player experience, one that can make things far less enjoyable. For instance, we hit a bug where because we were in a group, the threshold to stun enemies was decreased significantly. Both Pine and Yako were able to stun enemies the moment they came across them, and bosses could be stunned way earlier than they should have been, which made the game mindlessly easy until that got patched. And as a side note, when it did get patched, it still didn't even work properly as it raised the stun threshold above what it was supposed to be at, making fights more difficult. Frankly, this swing in the other direction didn't really bother me, as I'd always prefer something to lean on the side of being more difficult than less. But what I'm trying to get at is the game's just not really stable right now. It's hard for me to recommend early access, especially when considering that when the game actually comes out, it will have more than twice the amount of content, be free to play, and hopefully have more of the bugs worked out. So I think there's a very fair case to wait until then if you're currently on the fence about it. It really made me realize that I love early access games because of how much information they can give to devs, but I do not love being the person to actually play the early access game. I want that work to be done by someone else. To be clear, as far as early access titles go, this is on the upper end of them in terms of quality. Despite having plenty of issues, it doesn't feel half-baked, but you won't be getting the ideal experience. Of course, that doesn't mean that it isn't fun to play now. I had a really good time. While I'm sure my build was kind of shit, I still really enjoyed exploring the passive tree and looking into skill combos to try to come up with something that was fun to play. I rolled as a mercenary focused on shooting various types of grenades that yielded different effects, and the best part of that was how satisfying the grenade sounds and visuals in the game are. In his video, Pine called PoE 2 Cocomelon for dudes in their 30s, and I think this is a pretty solid way to explain the appeal of the moment-to-moment gameplay. Although as someone who actually has kids and has watched Cocomelon and other popular kids media, I think is way closer to being Hey Bear for dudes in their 30s, which is the one with dancing fruits. Cocomelon is like music videos for Old MacDonald and whatever. Anyway, so much of the game is just colors and sounds, and everything from the explosions to ice attacks to mace strikes scratch your brain in such a pleasant way that it's hard not to be mesmerized by everything happening around you. It's the kind of game you want to play when in a Discord call with your friends or while watching a 6-hour video essay. There's enough interaction to be engaging, but it doesn't generally demand so much attention to require your complete focus, at least when you are exploring the world. The bosses certainly do pose more of a challenge, which I think breaks things up nicely, although I still thought they were on the easy side. I imagine depending on if you're playing solo or as a certain character, the difficulty will vary tremendously, so it's hard to say that I wish the game as a whole was harder, but I do wish it felt better balanced for groups. Honestly, I also wish the characters felt a bit more balanced. The warrior, at least from what I saw on our playthrough, seems kinda terrible. Yako did the best with what he had, but it just seemed a level below what our characters were able to do. But yeah, I think there's a good mix of moments that take a lot of thought, like choosing how to build your character and fighting bosses, as well as moments that don't take much at all, like exploring and working through basic enemies, creating a game that allows you to vibe out while still feeling the satisfaction of overcoming stuff. I don't think it's going to change anyone's mind on ARPGs, so if you don't really like the genre, I'd take a pass on it, but if you're looking for one to drop a stupid amount of time into, this seems like it will be a good candidate, especially once it hits its full release. After that, I played Strange Horticulture, a game where you run a mysterious plant store in the city of Undermere and help solve the problems of locals by providing them with varying types of flora. The gameplay loop largely consists of someone coming in and requesting a plant, and then you cross-checking your handy reference book with the plants in the store in order to figure out which one to give them. While that is the core of it, the gameplay does extend beyond this. There's a whole map system that allows you to travel, and there are a bunch of puzzles tied to this as well. A big part of what makes solving everything feel so satisfying is how the game has you interact with the stuff in the shop. From the reference book, to the map, to letters, to the plants themselves, engaging with it all has an almost tactile sense to it despite it being a video game, helping to create a real sense of place, and immersing you further and further into each mystery. The puzzles themselves are in that sweet spot of being just challenging enough to get you thinking, but never making you feel too stupid. While I didn't get tripped up too much, I did find myself scrambling near the end of the game to figure out a handful of things, which I think is a great place to be when it comes to titles like this. You want a little bit of that panic, so solving it feels all that much better. The story itself is also pretty enjoyable, and there are a handful of ways that things can play out based on your choices, which is pretty fun. My only complaint about it is that there are a few puzzles early on where customers describe the effects or look of a plant, but then also tell you its name, and I thought this was kind of annoying as it took away something that I wanted to solve myself. Thankfully, this isn't much of a problem as the game goes on, but I would have preferred if it held players' hands a bit less in the early sections. I get why they did, and it doesn't hurt the game by any means, but it does act as an unwanted reminder that I'm not the center of the universe and that all things are not explicitly designed for my sensibilities and tastes, and that's kind of rude. But yeah, I highly recommend this one. It's probably in my top 5 of stuff I played this year, so that is something. I then ended off 2024 with King of the Bridge. In it, you play troll chess, which is like normal chess but different, against a troll who is blocking your path. As you play and make various moves, the rules are revealed to you. If you break any of the rules, the troll will call you out for it and be allowed to break a rule himself, which always ends in you losing. So the early part of the game is filled with trial and error as you test various things out and observe your opponent's moves in order to learn what does and doesn't count as cheating. An additional twist to all of this is that the troll will cheat on occasion, and if you notice it and can point out exactly how he cheated, you are allowed to break the rules one time as well. This proves to be a bit less effective than when the troll calls you out, as one of the rules is that when his king gets captured, a different piece becomes king, but it is still the most reliable way to get an edge. All of this leads to a really fun and charming experience where you're regularly checking the rulebook to make sure you're not about to make a move that will get you killed, and also trying to catch the troll when he makes an infraction. Additionally, the game has great presentation. Its use of text and sound effects when making an accusation just feels really good. It makes the moment both funnier and more serious than it has any right being. There is a level of polish here that elevates it in most ways. It is a pretty short game, although there is definitely some replayability in that there are different ways to win. Also, as chess is just a fun game, this variation on it is as well. So even though uncovering the rules is one of the better parts of it, playing troll chess itself is just a good time. I understand that this probably will never happen as it is a relatively small indie game, but I think a multiplayer mode of this could be a lot of fun with a few tweaks. I love board games designed around calling other people out for cheating or lying, and I think this could easily be translated to something in that vein. Regardless, the game is like $3 and charming as all hell, so you should give it a shot. That's all I've got. I hope you've had a good year, and I will see you in the next one unless I decide to stop doing this. Bye.